It's running.
Well, everybody knows me. I'm Anna Hayes, and I'm your local resident representative of the Guardian Alliance, which is a group of beings that come from other dimensional systems, but also other systems of our third dimension. Some of them are extraterrestrial, some of them are metaterrestrial, and some of them are ultra-terrestrial, which means they're completely outside of the framework of time and space as we know it. It's a large group that I speak for, and I have been a student of this group since childhood. And I'm here this evening to share with you some of the things I have learned, and I'm hoping to give you something that you can take home with you, some information that can help you perhaps to understand a little bit better what your consciousness is about, what the experience of other dimensional beings and your relationship to them is about, and maybe some practical tips on how you can take the knowledge of understanding your bioenergetic system and use it to begin to accelerate the process of your own evolution, both spiritually and biologically. Now, a lot of people think that spiritual evolution and biological evolution are two separate things. I always thought that. And I think differently now because of what I have been taught by the Guardian Alliance. They've introduced me to something called the science of Kilanta. And when I first asked them, what is that? They said, well, it can be simply defined as the science of light, sound, the subconscious symbol codes, and the base codes of matter. I was like, okay, light and sound I understand. These code things, I don't know what this means at all. So I asked questions, and I got many, many answers on all sorts of things I never really wanted answers to. But Kilanta presents a fascinating perspective on the human mind, on the cosmos, on matter, antimatter, and the relationship between all of those things. And I would like to share with you tonight some of the information I've learned about this science. And hopefully we can grow in our learning together, because I'm a fellow student of the Guardian Alliance, and I have a feeling our species will be learning this for a very long time. So you have to start somewhere, and Kilanta seems to be the place to start. All right, I'm going to use some of my notes to help you and to help me. Basically, first question is, what is Kilanta? Before everybody looks at this, and there's people in the group who've had a little bit exposure to this, and I would like to ask, what is Kilanta from the information that the people who've heard about it have got? Who would like to put a little bit into what is Kilanta to your understanding right now? Can you help me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Well, I think it's basically working with the life force energy of the universe. It's also, and consciously working with it, and working with the symbols and codes, okay, that help that soul accretion process that we talked about. And it's done with light, and it's done with sound, and it's done by activating the chakras, okay, using these technologies. And you know, it's not only good to understand this stuff intellectually, but we need to be actualizing and activating it so you can actually experience this stuff firsthand. So it's kind of like, you know, a quick overview of...
Right, that's very good. That touches on many of the bases of Kilanta. Is there anybody else that has read or heard anything about Kilanta that would like to put anything in on that?
I know that, I'm sorry.
Yes, I would, but I can't read the second. Okay. So I settle myself down.
Are you going to talk? I was going to say that in my understanding of Kilanta, where we can use light, color, and anything that is electrified may help heal people in the future. As now we have seen some experiments of, say, Dr. Robert Becker on growing limbs, which he was successful on frogs. After he cut the limb, and the limbs grew, provided the electrical potential of the limb is changed from a positive to 0 to negative, and that causes the frog limb to grow into a normal size, just like the salamander. I believe that in the future, our Kilanta, my understanding of Kilanta, will be in the same line, and being in the field of medicine, we are going to be very interested in that, especially in trauma surgery. Yeah, and orthopedics, you know.
Yes, Kilanta has many, many healing applications. In fact, it has applications across the board to everything that affects our universe and our society and our personhood. Because the real core of Kilanta is it's a science of consciousness and the science of creation. It's the underlying structures of what matter is created from. It is the underlying structures of consciousness. So it is not something you can learn in one night, by the way. But there are some other things that Kilanta also is. And I prepared this for both of us, so I can go down the list for myself, and also you can read along if you like.
Show it.
It is, hold it up higher.
That's good. That's good.
Okay. It is the science of creation and consciousness. It's the science of macrocosmic and microcosmic interrelationships. It's the science of energy dynamics through which matter forms and consciousness manifests. It's the science of biological, physical, and consciousness, spiritual evolution. That's not all. It is the science of humanity's relationship to its source and the cosmos. It is the science of the construction, perceptions, and potentials of the human organism and consciousness. It is the science of the structure of the multidimensional universe and humanity's multidimensional identity and humanity's relationship to other sentient life forms within the multidimensional universe. Kilanta is all these things, and it's more. It is the science of the human soul and the family tree of consciousness out of which all of us emerge, which is something not too many scientists know here. That sounds like something that would be found more so in the realms of religions or churches. But in truth, there is not a difference between science and religion. We only perceive it to be here. Science does have a soul, but it hasn't found yet. And Kilanta is the place where it can begin to find that soul. Okay. It is the science of DNA activation, genetic imprinting, cellular memory, and transmutation of form. Through understanding the dynamics of Kilanta, we can literally change the way our DNA operates. And the DNA governs the structure of our physical body. And our physical body will determine what type of consciousness we are able to bring into our minds, our conscious minds, while we're here. There's an intimate connection between spirit, your spiritual aspects, which are your higher dimensional aspects, and consciousness moving through the body. Because you can have a wonderful level of development of consciousness in the higher dimensions, but if you have a neurological structure that is not able to handle the current of all that electrical information, you won't have access to it on a conscious level. So the science of Kilanta gives us tools and understanding of our parts enough that we can start to expand the potentials of our body, so we can bring in more of our consciousness and awareness, so we can bring in more of our soul into manifestation here. Okay. Kilanta is the science of dimensional ascension, teleportation, bilocation, and regeneration of identity. For once you understand how to play with these little particles that you're composed of, these units of consciousness that Kilanta will teach you about, things like teleportation will come easily to you. You won't need a machine to do it, because you'll know how to change the vibrational rate of your molecular structure. Do I know how to do this yet? No. But I'm first in line as far as wanting to learn. And that's, we're getting the foundations of what one day, if we work with these tools, will teach us how to do these things. There are extraterrestrial races that are in biologies. They're not just metaterrestrials that don't have bodies anymore. They are in bodies who know this science and who are able to manifest and demanifest at will. They are able to walk through solid objects. They are able to travel through time with no problem at all. Things that seem only science fiction to us. It's because they understand the principles of kinetic science. we get a little more scientific about the whole thing, Keylontic science explores the dynamics of time, space, and matter. How those qualities of our externalized reality are created. What are they really? Where do they come from? Are they what they appear to be? Some of these questions will be answered through Keylontic science. We will find that time is not linear as we perceive it to be, but simultaneous in nature. We will find that space all takes place in something called non-space. We will find that matter is actually an illusion, holographic illusion created by the refraction of energy particles and light and sound frequencies. We will find that things are much different than our five senses tell us they are when we begin to explore Keylontic. Okay. It is the science of ultra-micro-particle and antiparticle dynamics. It is the science of the 12 human senses, not just the 5. And basically, it is the science of light, sound, the subconscious symbol codes, and the base codes of matter. And now we'll learn what they are. We know light and we know sound. But what are subconscious symbol codes? And what are base codes of matter? Cover this section in a little while. This gets into what it can do for us, but I think we'll get into that at the end.
Kitty, there's a post.
Now, the reason that I'm reading these is there is a lot of information. And if I'm just talking to you off the top of my head, I might lose half of it. So I'm going to read it. If you can read it, that's all right, but I don't think you can because it's so tiny. But it's more so, I'm going to read it to you because I won't lose content that way. So if that's a little annoying, bear with me. At least you'll get the information. All right. There are 6 primary elements in the science of Keylontic. The first element are particae. That's a new word. Okay. Particae are the smallest units of energy in the cosmos, according to the Guardian Alliance. They are electrotonal units of energy identity that emanate from a central source. The Guardian Alliance calls the unisign. They operate as minute fission-fusion generators. They create and maintain the electromagnetic frequency fields upon which the universe and all structure is built. They exist within and beyond all matter forms, free matter and antimatter, and consciousness. They form and sustain something called morphogenetic fields. For all forms, subparticles, etc., everything has a morphogenetic field. And a morphogenetic field is a basic energy field, energy structure behind its manifest form that allows that manifest form to keep its shape. And everything in the universe, every little particle, subparticle, has one. And particae are what they are. Groups of particae form larger morphogenetic fields like the ones humans would have. But even a particae represents a morphogenetic field itself. So they form, we could look at them, if you wanted to, as little tiny units that are the morphogenetic field, or form-holding pattern that we come out of. And we are composed of particae. Everything is. The space in the air here is composed of particae. Our bodies are. Our higher consciousness is. Particae are the unified energy field that runs through the entire cosmos. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay. Okay. The particae are units of electrotonal consciousness. They are the organizational intelligence within all things. In spiritual terms, they are the living units of conscious identity and energy, particles of the consciousness of the unisign, which some people call God. We are made of these things. People think God is somewhere out there, someplace away from us. We are made of the substance of which that being is. Because particae are not just energy units, they're energy identity units. They are conscious. And they have consciousness. They will group to form different types of consciousness and awareness. They don't think in terms like we do. But we think because we are composed of them. So in spiritual terms, the particae are our direct connection and continual connection to a centralized source that we may call God if we're comfortable with that. And if not, the unisign works.
It's an energy identity that is a central source of creation. And we take place within it. It's not out there somewhere. All of reality is taking place within it. And this is one of the things you'll learn in Kilanta. You will learn the scientific parts of it, which a lot of spiritual people go, oh, that's not important. And then you'll learn the spiritual parts of it that a lot of scientific people say, oh, that can't be because spirit's not real. Hopefully through Keylontic science, we can learn that yes, spirituality and our spiritual identity is as real as the identity of our leg or our arm. They are the same substance. They're composed of the same particles, and those particles are particae. Okay, now there are two types of subparticles that are formed from the particae. First one we'll call the particum. Okay, it is a particae unit. It's considered a particae. But the particum particae is slower moving, and it contains half of the electrotonal, which is electrified sound, thrust, or force, of its twin. So we have a particum, and the particum has a twin. The particum moves half as fast. It pulsates half as fast as its twin does. Okay. The particae is a subunit. The particum is a subunit of the particae. They make up particles in our universe. They're the little tiny units that make up our subatomic particles, and the smallest known particles that we would have would be composed of particum particae. All right. There is another type of particae that are called particae. The particae are antiparticles to the particles that we are composed of. This implies the existence of a parallel universe, a parallel self, and a form here is a particum form, and it will have its twin reflection that moves twice as fast, vibrates twice as fast in a parallel dimensional system, parallel universal system. We have 15 dimensions in our system, and so does the parallel universe. And it's not like they're way over there someplace in another universe far, far away. These two universes are intimately intertwined. They are taking place in the same space, but on different pulses of consciousness. So we perceive one set of pulses here, we don't see their set, and vice versa. Okay? Now, let's see. Particae cycle. Okay, the Guardians call this cycling. The particae unit is a unit of electrotonal thrust that comes out of the unici. It gets projected into the 15-dimensional system. Okay? When it intersects with the 15-dimensional system, it undergoes fission, and it breaks apart and replicates itself. So it starts out as one, undergoes fission when it hits the frequency bands of the 15-dimensional system. And then it replicates itself, and the original breaks apart. Okay? So now, the original pattern of that tone remains in the replication, so it's never gone. Okay? The one that broke up first, the replica holds the original pattern. The one that came in first breaks up into two pieces, a particum and a particae. They are created at the same time. Okay? They flash on in one in our universe and one in the parallel universe. And our particles were made of an infinite number of them, compose our bodies. But this is what they are doing so fast that we can't perceive it. So they break up into the particae and the particum. They manifest into the dimensional fields. And then because this one, the particae, has twice the amount of thrust, of force, and it's moving away from the morphogenetic field, just like this one is, it starts to tow the particum. It makes it spin, reverse direction, and go back to fuse with the morphogenetic field. So the particum particle here flashes off in our universe. And it goes back into the morphogenetic field. It expands the morphogenetic field, adding to it. Then this becomes more of a thrust than what the particae is. So it pulls the particae, makes it spin, pulls the particae antiparticle back in. And it fuses with the particum particle inside of the morphogenetic field. Now both our particle and our antiparticle have flashed off. We have disappeared momentarily. Then this act, as they fuse, it creates, as we know, when something fuses, it releases a burst of energy. It sends a quarter of its thrust back toward the unici, creating something called a backflow, which is a current that pulls away from the dimensional matrix that we're in. Okay? This would be the current that would take us back home to God, if you want to look at it that way. When it creates the backflow, that sets off another act of fission within the morphogenetic field. And again, the ones that have come together will start to cycle again, and they'll do this again, and they'll break apart again. So they're constantly flashing on together, then the particle flashes off, the antiparticle flashes off, they replicate, create a backflow, and flash on again. And this is happening so fast. I believe the particles, what did we come to? It was 3/100ths of a second
Yeah.
in the third dimensional particles. And some of them are much, much faster than that in the higher dimensional frequencies. So we are composed of these structures. Most of us have no idea we're composed of these structures. And most of us don't know that we flash on and off. Where do we go in between these flashes was my first question. If I'm flashing on and off, but it's happening, too fast for my senses to see, where am I going? When I demanifest, am I just gone or what? No, we return to our original pattern, the morphogenetic field out of which we came, our original identity that has all of our parts in it and all possible versions of our parts. In the 15-dimensional matrix, which I'm not going to go into too heavily this time or I'll never get to the end of what I want to get into, but the morphogenetic field for the particles that make up, say, our bodies, these are D1 particles, first dimensional particles, they would have their morphogenetic field in D15, are what we call our emotional bodies, or it's actually the elemental body, the complex elements that form the matter in our bodies that help to form it. That is our second dimensional aspect of particai, or particum in our universe. The morphogenetic field for that is in D14. So there's a correlation between the levels of our particai here and where our morphogenetic field is in the higher dimensions. And we'll get into that in another one, but it's enough to know that we're made of these things that most people don't even know exist yet. And they hold the key to our consciousness and to our perception of matter, space, and time. Okay.
Cut.
The second primary element of Keylontic science is a particai grid. And this brings it a little bit brings it down to where we can understand it a little bit more. It's something that we have, and it's a grid, okay? A particai grid is composed of particai units. In our system, is a particum grid. It's made of the particum particles. In the parallel universe, it's a particai grid. But what a particai grid, whichever side it's on, is, it's a grouping of particai. Particai group by like polarization. That means particums will group together and particai will group together to form more complex structures. The first thing they'll form are strands. They form strands of electrotonal energy units. Those strands group to form grids. If you take strands and cross them this way, this way, and this way, you get what looks like a little carpet of light that's made of little fibers of light. And that is the unified field of energy that exists within everything and through everything and connects us directly into our source, of which we emerge. It connects us right to the unici, connects us to each other. Okay, so a particai grid is simply, you can look at it as a carpet of light and sound. It's invisible to our perceptions, but it exists beneath all matter forms and all forms of consciousness. Okay, let's see. Okay. Here we have the cosmos represents a massive particai grid, which serves as the unified field of energy substance within which all things exist and are interconnected. All beings and matter forms have personal particai grids, which are formed within the grid of the unified field. Energy and identity perpetually circulate from the unici into the dimensional systems and back again through the electromagnetic fabric of the particai grids. They are electromagnetic fields that are created by the cycling of particai that are the first level of our individuation of form. You could look at it that way too. Even though there is a unified field of them, when they start to build up in group into more complex structures, that's the first level of the creation of a human body or any other body or a matter object. So we have a particai grid. Now, each human and object in our system has a particai grid composed of particum units. And it also has a particai grid in our parallel universe, which is the grid of our personal double or twin. So we do have a twin. It is our same body pattern. It's evolving on a similar course of action in a system that moves twice as quickly as us. It pulses twice as fast. They have more consciousness within their bodies than we do because they vibrate faster. And if we can learn to move our consciousness into union with theirs, we expand. And that is the process of evolution. Okay, now, the process of biological and spiritual evolution is the process of progressing from lower dimensional reality fields into the higher fields. This is done by pulling higher frequencies, Partakai grids from the higher dimensions, into our Partakai grid. As we do this, we are progressively merging our Partakai grid with the Partakai grid of our twin. We are literally, as we evolve up the dimensional scale, you have the two separate Partakai grids, okay, the Partakam and the Partakai, we in our double. We are merging up further, and as right now we're in the third dimensional frequencies. We're actually composed of D1, physical body, D2, the emotional elemental body, and D3, mental body, where we have our line of focus. We are united with our double up to that degree. We still have from the fourth dimension to the 15th to unite with our double. And we are literally merging consciousness, but also merging DNA. And we are taking what is taking place in seemingly two separate spaces, two separate pulses, and merging them, which creates another type of pulse. It creates the whole pulse, which takes you completely out of the illusion of matter on both sides into the next level up. And it is hard to describe. You know, they've been teaching me this, the guardians have been teaching me this for a number of years, some of these principles. And it's still hard for me to put into words how this happens, but I feel it. All right, I feel the process taking place. A lot of people have mystical experiences or strange experiences where they know there's someplace else too. Some people, especially people who've dabbled in like psychic development, that kind of stuff, they've run into experiences where they saw themselves and they felt themselves inside this double of theirs, and they couldn't figure out, what is this double, where does it come from? This is where it comes from. One person who experienced that very consciously was Jane Roberts, who channeled the Seth material. She would look on her wall and she would literally see an image of another space and time, and she would be in a library. Her double would be in the library reading, and she would translate what her double was reading into material to write here, which was a kind of neat little trick. And this is what we can learn to do once first we realize we have this double. And then we realize we're intimately connected to it. We can learn exercises that will help to speed up this evolutionary process and help the merger with the double. Because ultimately, when you merge all of humans can hold 12-dimensional frequencies in the body. After that, you would not be in human form anymore. You would evolve out of biology completely. Okay? But as you're evolving up from the first dimension up to the 15th, you're progressively pulling together with your double. When you get to D12, you basically turn into what would appear as a ball of light. Okay? If we were to see it, it is a ball of electrotonal frequency, and it is consciousness, and it is identity. That is where we started. Before we ever came to this place and found ourselves running around in matter-form bodies, we existed in these states of pure cognition. So it's not as if it's something foreign. Kilanta is not something foreign to us. Our cells know what Kilanta is. Okay? So it's time that our conscious minds became aware of that process. So the third primary element of Kelantic science are chelons. That's where it gets its name. Okay, now, a chelon is a dimensionalized Partakai composite that forms within and around the fabric of the Partakai grids. Okay, once the grids are formed, let's say our Partakam grid, the strands pull together and they finally form a grid. Well, Partakai group by like polarization, those grids are going to pull in more energy. They're going to pull in more Partakai units or Partakam units in ours. These units build up within the grid. As you can almost imagine it like dirt building up in the fabric of a garment or something. If you put it under a microscope, you could see the little pieces of dirt embedding themselves in the grid. Well, chelons do this. More and more Partakai group together to form clusters. And these clusters become what are called chelons. Now, chelons don't just group without a pattern. They group following certain geometrical, mathematical laws that apply to the way that the dimensions are structured in the whole bit. There's a set order to them. They group to form things that if we could see them with a microscope, they would look like little crystals, crystalline structures with a definite form and shape to them. Okay, let's see. Now, chelons are the first step in the transition from consciousness to pre-matter substance. So, before we were matter, on the levels before we're matter, we are pre-matter. Before that, we're something else. Okay? Chelons are the level of our identity and our being that exists between pure consciousness and pre-matter substance. Now, if we're going to see chelons, they would look something like this. This is an example of one trying to do a three-dimensional thing two-dimensionally. But they would look like little crystal clusters, like you might, if you would look at a crystalline, like a little crystal cluster that you find in the earth. They have the little points sticking out a little bit. It's kind of like that. They would look like that. And they are composed of millions and billions of Partakai units in just one little chelon. Okay, and they embed themselves in the grids and they build up on the grids. It's almost like if you were going to build a statue out of paper mache, you would start with an armature, say out of wire, and then on top of the wire you put a layer of paper as your next layer, and you'd slowly build out to more solid form. Well, that is what's happening with energy in Partakai. All right, so we have our chelons that are building up in the grid. Now the next level, next primary elements of chelontic science are chelon codes. Now, chelon codes are complex groupings of chelons. They direct the contours of energy upon which forms are built. Partakai and grids set the base forms in energy. Chelons add more substance to the forms, and chelon codes further flesh out the energy structure upon which particles will manifest. They direct the flow of energy Partakai units through a form into more specialized patterns. So it's the next level out on fleshing out our form into what appears as a matter form. Okay? They're complex patterns of frequency, electrotonal energy. They form into interwoven geometrical crystalline patterns that are the templates of living light and sound. And they are living because they are conscious. We are conscious because we are composed of chelons and Partakai. So these are the living light and sound patterns that our subatomic particles build up on. Okay? They are the final step between energy consciousness and pre-matter substance. So they link the chelons into the pre-matter, and that's where matter's solidity or density starts to happen. They set the pattern for the DNA and the body rhythms also. So held within, there are certain DNA, pieces of DNA we can identify as, oh, this controls this body rhythm, or this controls that, or this controls the other thing. But what controls the pattern that created that DNA in the first place is the chelon codes and the chelons and the Partakai beneath them. These are the foundation units of substance. Okay, as we evolve upward into the higher dimensions, we're actually assembling into our Partakai grids, our personal Partakai grid that our body and consciousness is built on, more and more complex forms of chelon codes. And the more forms and chelon codes a person's Partakai grid has, the more consciousness you will be able to bring into that form. All right, right now we're bringing into our form the consciousness of the third dimension out of 15. We got a long way to go. And how we're going to go, whether we do it consciously or let evolution take its course, it's the same process. Evolution taking its course is the process of building more complex. Partakai are still coming into our Partakai grid. Okay, they're still forming. You can either break down chelon codes, which will make you de-evolve, and basically your genetic code would fall apart, or you can evolve. You're going one way or the other because you're either building chelons or you're tearing them down. None of it's static. Okay, so our process of evolution can be made much simpler if we understand that we have these units and that there are things we can do with the energy directed through our minds that can build into our own grids more complex chelon codes, which will allow more of our higher consciousness to come into our bodies. And as we progress with this, it will lessen the density of our bodies, because right now we're made of particum mostly. We have more particles than anything else, so we have a matter density to us. It's pretty solid. All right, it appears to be anyway. Now, the more you bring in your double and fuse with your double, you're changing this particum into particae, into the original pattern. You're lessening the density of your matter form as you go. So this is how dimensional ascension occurs. This is how spiritual evolution and biological evolution occurs. What it means to evolve and to complete our evolutionary process is to evolve our Keelan codes so high, where we have so many complex codes, that we no longer manifest. We vibrate too high as a consciousness to manifest in a lower density matter form. So what we're really aiming for in evolution is coming to the point where we have evolved out of biology and back into the higher states of being that we came from in the first place. All right, and a lot of people don't realize that this is what evolution is about. It's not just, species happen to appear, they happen to go this way, happen to go that way, and it's all, there's really no order to it or much of a pattern. There certainly is a pattern. There's a pattern, there's a purpose, and it goes for species all the way down to the individual. Okay? And we can become conscious of this process by starting to understand how the process occurs and starting to work with our own particle grids and learning to plug things in, more energy, more frequency into our grids. Will speed up our evolutionary process and our spiritual evolution. Now, getting to the fifth primary element of Keelantic science. This one I love. I just like the term. I don't know why. I think it did a lot for me when they gave me this term. It made an instant visual where I could see it. It was a little abstract for me before, but this helped. The crystal body. Okay, this is the fifth primary element of Keelantic science. Now, this term is used to refer to the multidimensional Keelan code structure of a matter form or form of consciousness or energy. Everything has a crystal body. Every little particle in the universe has a crystal body. Every big being in the universe has a crystal body. We have one, and it walks around with us. It's inside of us. And it's exciting. I have seen this, all right? The Guardians have done things with my perceptions a couple of times where they shifted me to a higher dimensional field, my mental awareness. From there, you can see what your crystal body looks like in D3. You can't see it from here, but when you change the pulsation rate of your consciousness, which you have to separate from your body right now to do because your body can't handle a faster pulsation rate right now. They showed me what it looked like, and it looks like these little tiny crystals made of light. And instead of seeing, like, if you were going to look in a mirror, you wouldn't see yourself this way. We would all look the same, all right? Yet all the little geometrical patterns that we are made of are different. And we process consciousness and energy in unique individual ways, but we're composed of the same substance. And we are so beautiful on that level. So the crystal body is something that when I'm introducing Keelantic science, I would much rather teach you about this and teach you that you have one and teach you how to start playing with it and how to start adding more energy to it and becoming aware of it than worrying about some of the real heavy-duty scientific stuff, because this is the personal stuff that you can do something about and you can do something with. Yeah. So the crystal body does a number of things, okay? Okay. Hold on a second, I want to find my place. All right, it sets the manifest characteristics of a form. So our physical body, our DNA, all of those things are controlled and set by the crystal body. It sets the subatomic structure and the body rhythms, the way energy and particle units will move through the body, and the type of conscious awareness the form will be able to embody. The human crystal body encompasses 12 dimensions of identity and form. That means we can ultimately bring into the morphogenetic field of our crystal body 12 dimensions. Excuse me.
The number 4 numerology, I've been doing some research about that. Is that going to be related to the 12 activation of the high vibration of the 12 bands of the DNA in combination
Yes.
with the consciousness that's going to be able to very soon, according to things that I've been studying, activate our consciousness to be able to mutate at a faster speed to be able to implement all these concepts faster into the system, to the
Yes,
biological system.
exactly. What is going to happen with the 12 DNA that you're referring to? We originally, our prototype, our morphogenetic field for our species, had a pattern for 12 strands of DNA, not just 2. All right. At certain points, they were broken down. They became what we call the junk DNA, these little DNA particles that are floating around in our cells. They're being plugged back in. The way they are being plugged back in is by plugging in chelon codes. All right, they're dismantled chelon codes is what they are, and they're being plugged back in, which will reactivate those strands of DNA.
And at the same time, the 12 chakra will be activated, the 7 in the body and the 5 outside the body.
Yeah, I'm not sure what chakra system that you were studying, but we're getting into the chakras a little bit later, where yes, we're activating the higher ones, the ones outside of the body. We're doing that in order to help build the chelon process, but they go hand in hand. If you start working with your chelons or with your DNA, you're automatically affecting the other things. You know, you'll open your chakras if you start playing with your chelons, or if you start meditating on trying to plug in your DNA strands, you will build chelons and activate chakras. So they all go together. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
The most important thing to understand about the crystal body is that by interacting with the crystal body, we can expand our evolutionary potential, replug in those DNA that you were talking about, and we can accelerate the whole process of physical evolution, biological evolution, and spiritual evolution. So it's very helpful to know that we have a crystal body, and then we can start taking steps to make changes in this crystal body. The term may seem like very unscientific, and I think that's why I like it. It's simple. We could call it the Partakai body, we could call it the Chelon body, but the crystal body gives you an idea visually of if you want to start meditating to use this, you want to start directing mental energy into making changes. Picture the crystal body, because that's what you're working with. Okay? Now, the last primary element of chelontic science, and I'm talking really primary elements here, okay? This can go much, much further into particles, antiparticles, and all sorts of real scientific jargon things. I'm not going to get into those now. You know, some of them even confuse me. But the last thing, this is our control device on how to play with our crystal body. They're called light symbol codes. All right? A light symbol code is a pattern of electrotonal energy that's composed of specific Partakai configurations. They make out certain frequencies and spectrums of multidimensional light. Now, if you want to know what a light symbol code is, you can close your eyes and visualize, say, the pattern of a Star of David, which, by the way, is a very powerful chelon code. All right. When you visualize that pattern of light on your inner screen, your inner mental screen, you don't realize it, but you're directing fourth dimensional sound patterns. All right. The mind is a very powerful thing. We forgot that as a race, and we're relearning it in these times. The mind is composed of Partakai. When you think a thought, you are making a Partakai pattern, and you are plugging it into other patterns out here. Where does a thought go after you think it? It goes several places. It downscales, it slows in vibration, and it ends up out here someplace in manifest reality. We won't get heavily into that right now. But the most important thing to understand about light symbol codes is they can be used to program the way energy flows through the crystal body, the chelons, and the Partakai units. You can speed up your Partakai units by using certain light symbol codes. Now you can also invent machines that will direct specific frequencies, and if we knew how, we could invent machines that would direct specific D4 frequencies. Because you see, to access our crystal body, you can't do it from D3. You have to do it from the dimensional frequency bands above. That gets the chelons to open to accept a new program of operation. So when we use light symbol codes with our mind, that light is directing D4 sound. All right, just like when we have sound here, all right, our sound is actually D2 light. It appears as light in the second dimension. All right. So when we are making, just think about the little images we come up with in our minds. And wow, There are patterns of sound in D4. This is why things like mental visualization, a lot of people are into that, this is why it works. When you begin to visualize, say, events that you would like to see happen, if you visualize that here in D3, don't think it in words. You think it in pictures. You put yourself there. They always tell you, put yourself there and make it as real as possible, as if you're walking around in the image. What you're doing is creating an energy signature here in light, which is creating it in sound in D4, which enters into your crystal body and becomes part of the crystal body. Now, the crystal body has a couple of things that it does. It not only holds our form together, this is what creates our holographic perception of manifest three-dimensional reality. So when you put a new program into it, it will, in some form or another, come out here. We're like projector machines in a movie theater. Okay? When you program the crystal body, it's called cellular memory. Everything we go through, this room right here, our crystal bodies are taking all this in. And they're making an imprint of it in energy. And they're holding it. This is where the concept of karma comes from. Every energy signature we walk through becomes a part of us, and it will cycle back out until we change that pattern. Because the crystal body projects energy, it projects particuli outward. We think this is all separate from us. It isn't. It's a part, right now we're all sitting in the middle of a unified field of particuli grids. All of our crystal bodies are interacting with the crystal body of the space between our objects, and we're all experiencing a hologram that's created by the refraction of light and sound. And it's because their consciousness is pulsating at a certain rhythm that we're all seeing it at the same time. Because if we weren't pulsating at the same rhythm, some of us would be seeing something else, and we wouldn't appear in the room either. So it's a very manifestation is a very complex science. Helantic science will lead to an understanding of that. But it's the most important thing is to just start with the basics. And the basics are understanding what you're composed of, what you're made of. And to realize, too, that it's not just your physical body that's made of these. The parts of yourself that you can't see are also made of these. And those parts are, for instance, your conscious awareness. Like, yeah, I know I'm conscious. What is that stuff? You know, like, where is consciousness? What is it? Where did it come from? I know I have it, but where is it exactly? You know, these are hard to answer questions. And most people really don't know. They just know they have consciousness and they're awake and aware. Well, we have consciousness. Our cells have consciousness. Our bodies are conscious, too, in their own ways. We can learn to use our minds to tap into our bodies. We can read it and we can diagnose ourselves. We can learn many things about healing ourselves that way. But we can also learn to expand our consciousness by playing with the chelons and playing with our particuli grids. You can merge the three-dimensional grid. Okay, we have a grid. We have a D1 grid for our physical body, a D2 grid for our emotional body, D3 grid for our mental body, where our minds are focused now. We have a D4 grid, which is what some people call the astral body. When you link this line of focus, the D3 grid, with the D4 grid, you move yourself out of your body and you can travel. And this has been an ancient art for many, many, billions of years, really. This is part of the natural human. And most of our species has forgotten the ability to do this, but we're reawakening to this ability now. Now, this has to do with what our DNA can handle, too. When you merge those two grids, the three-dimensional mental body grid with the fourth-dimensional grid, you are creating a higher vibration of energy. If your genetic code is not activated to a certain level, it won't be able to pull memory in from that. You'll go, because every one of us go astral every night. We go back to source. We go all the way to the 8th dimension and through to what's called the galactic core, where we pick up energy to rejuvenate our consciousness. And then we come back here. The reason we go to sleep is because our physical genetic code cannot process those higher frequencies of energies yet. But as we evolve, it will be able to do that. We will need less sleep. We will need much less of all the things we depend on here. We will need less food. We will need less water. We will need less air. Our biologies can be expanded by linking the particuli grids that we have here with the higher dimensional ones. And we will begin to remember our experience. Our dream reality, what we call dream reality, is other dimensional reality. Some of it's processing of stuff we picked up here that we didn't assimilate. But other parts of it are legitimate experiences in travel through other dimensions, higher dimensions. comes back in pieces that we can't make sense of yet, so we don't have the full genetic code that allows it to flow through and process. It's like having a computer that can't handle the programs coming into it. It needs a bigger program, so we got to reprogram the DNA. The way to reprogram the DNA is by reprogramming the light body, or the crystal body with the light symbol codes. And it's really not that hard to do. It sounds complex, but a lot of people have been doing this for a number of years now. In the New Age movement and everything, they've been using meditations and sound and visualization and all those things. They're not a bunch of nutty people that are just making weird sounds and doing weird things with their minds. They might not have the scientific basis for what they're doing. For what they're doing when they start running sound frequencies through their body or toning, they're directly affecting how their particle grid is vibrating. You can raise its vibration or you can lower it. You can make your chelons build up or you can make them tear down, depending on what sounds you put in, depending on what electromagnetic currents you're exposed to, and depending on how you use your mind and your thoughts, because your thoughts are particle, which means they are energy. And that energy will affect the body and everything around you. This is the substance behind all those claims of mind over matter. This is why mind can work over matter. We're not real good at it here in our time and space. There were times in our species development many, many eons ago where we were more advanced, we had more DNA plugged in, that we had complete control over matter with our minds. It was nothing. It was like breathing. Well, we have to relearn that process. And this is one tool. Kilanta is one tool that can help move us in that direction. So, I'm going to take a break very soon. Yeah, before I get into this, I'll let you look at this, and then I'll talk about it a little after the break. I just need to get something to drink and breathe for a couple minutes. I'm getting tired. Okay.
Very
We
nice
take five?
so far.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. For the second part of my discussion, I would like to get into a little bit of Kilanta on a personal level. Alright, we learned before that we have a crystal body, and it's composed of chelons and particles, and we can affect change in our physical bodies, in our consciousness, and in our lives by learning to use these energies within our own bodies. Now, a lot of people have heard of the chakra system before. Some people believe it's real, some people don't. It's considered levels of subtle energy that surround the physical body and that move through the physical body at different levels. Well, the Guardians have assured me that yes, we do have a chakra system. For those who aren't sure whether it's real or not, it is there. It is actually a series of particle grids. You can see down here on this little one. Our physical body was here, all right? All of these levels, it's kind of like being on the inside of an onion almost. These are energy fields, and they are particle grids, and we have one for each of the 15 dimensions surrounding our body. Now, the average one goes from first to the 7th dimension. That extends about 300 feet out around us. We don't see it because it's pulsating at different rates than what our perceptions are tuned to. So we don't see those energies unless we learn to shift our consciousness to a different level of perception. Then you can see them. People who develop their psychic senses are learning to perceive higher pulsations of energy, faster pulsations, so they're able to see the structures of subtle energy bodies. Now, most people who study chakras know that there are, they say that there are 7 primary chakras within the body. There are actually 15 primary chakras, all right? The 7 that most people refer to are within the body, and I'm not going to cover those extensively tonight because there's a tremendous amount of written material on those. You can, Barbara Brennan's books are wonderful on that. She has a book called, what is it? Awakening. One of them is Awakening the Light Body. Hands of Light is the first one. This will give you an excellent analysis of the first 7 levels of the bioenergetic field and the chakras and how they work. What we're concerned about tonight are going to be the higher and lower chakras. There are chakras that run down below our feet, and there are chakras that run up over our head. Now, they are connected to the main 7, but they are not secondary. They are also primary chakras. Now, with
with our level of development, a lot of these chakras have not been what they call activated yet. They are there, they exist, and so do the levels of awareness that go with them. But they have not been plugged in to our DNA. They have not been plugged into our crystal bodies yet. We didn't build in the Kelon codes. All these energy fields are composed of Kelon codes and Partakai. In order to have them activated within the body, those Kelon codes have to be plugged in to the Kelon codes of our third dimensional, second dimensional, and first dimensional body. We haven't reached that stage of evolution yet, but we can change that, and we can start to accelerate the process of evolution and the process of spiritual expansion and biological evolution by plugging in the Kelon codes from these outer fields and from the fields that extend beyond us. Now, the main chakras that I would like to teach you about tonight, I'll show you our numbering system. We follow the basic 7, like most systems of chakra analysis do. You have the first, which is the base chakra, the second, which is the sacral chakra, and it's around down in here over the reproductive organs somewhere. And up here would be where your navel is. And around here is the solar plexus chakra, is the third chakra. Okay, and that, now I'll get into what they apply to in a minute. Fourth chakra is the heart chakra. That connects to your astral body. And the fifth chakra is the throat chakra. And I'll get into what that connects to in a minute. The sixth chakra is what a lot of people call the third eye. And once that's activated, that's when you start to be able to perceive and get a visual interpretation of the faster pulsating energy fields of the higher dimensional identity. And that's when you start to see the chakra system and those kind of things, and other things too that live in the higher dimensions. It's not just your own chakras that you see. Alright, this is the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, which brings energy from the extended auric field down through into the body. And the base chakra pulls it in up through from the earth. Alright, now up above the head, here, I have the 10th chakra. We're having 8 and 9, right? Okay. 8 is actually not manifested yet, but it's one of the things we're activating. The 8th chakra will manifest between the 4th and the 5th chakras, and we're working on that activation now. The 8th chakra runs at an angle from here up through your head, intersects with the pineal gland, and comes out somewhere at the back, right around the back of the head. All right, this is an important chakra because it connects you to the frequencies of what's called the galactic core, which is the center of the 15-dimensional matrix. It connects you to the level of identity that you were before you entered manifestation at all within the dimensionalized system. All right, the 9th chakra runs at almost an opposite angle, where its base would be at the base, right around the base of the skull here, where it hooks onto the neck, and it runs through. It goes through the pituitary gland, and it runs at an angle and comes out right up around here somewhere. They actually create like an X-type formation of energy, and that gets into some more complex energy structures that we won't go into. So 8 and 9 are there. We're going to deal with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Because these are the primary ones that bring the energies from the highest dimensions into the physical body. Right now, most people do not have the 10th chakra activated. It's there, it's dormant, and when you see it with higher sensory vision, it would look like a little kind of a clumped up ball of energy, where once it's activated, it opens up into a circular formation of energy where you can see current spiraling through it, and it changes color and it gets brighter with higher sensory vision. So what we're going to work on is activating, or bringing all those from a little clump of closed energy, opening them. And when we open them, it allows the frequencies from the higher dimensions to come in. And they will come into the lower energy fields. They'll come in from here, come into these fields, and then start coming into our body, which will help us build Kelons. And it will help us activate the rest of our crystal body, expand our DNA, the whole bit. Okay, now, the 10th chakra connects to the 10th dimensional frequencies. It's very simple in their numbering system. They did it that way on purpose. So, we could remember very easily. The base chakra connects to the first dimensional frequencies, the second, the third, the fourth, which is the astral level, okay, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. They all correspond to the dimensions that they're numbered after. 10th chakra, 11th chakra, goes to the 11th dimension, 14th chakra, which actually 13th is down here, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. 14th chakra is considered the origin point. It's the first point of projection when you entered what they call the time matrix. That is the dimensionalized system that gives us the illusion of matter, space, and progression through time. Before that, we existed as pure consciousness in something called the energy matrix. And then we entered the time matrix, and it gives us this experience of separation and dimensionalization. The 14th chakra and the 14th dimension are the point at which we were originally projected. It's where the whole pattern of our morphogenetic field for identity exists. And this includes not just us, but also others in what I call our family tree of consciousness, because we are connected to others. Some people call it reincarnation, but it's really simultaneous manifestation. We're all existing at once in a field of time, pulsating at different rates. But at the 14th chakra, when we activate this, we bring in the entire pulse of our identity. We can't bring the whole thing in. The physical body can't hold that. The physical body can only hold the frequencies of D12. Okay? But when you activate the whole line of them, and this is what we want to do, I want to do a meditation tonight that will begin that process of opening and activating them. You create an energy link that goes from the 14th all the way through you, through the earth, around and through the 15th dimension, which is actually, if you went through the earth, you're standing here, if you went through the earth, came out the other side and kept going, you'd be way out in space, right? So actually the 15th chakra is way out in space, but it's perceived as going through, that's the way you put it, below the feet. It's actually through the earth core, an energy field that comes up, through the earth core and through the bottom of our feet and works up where the 14th is coming down. What the energy fields that these create, the 14th and the 15th, the 15th creates a spiral of energy going up this way. The 14th creates one going down this way. It's two counter-rotating spirals of energy, which some people call the Merkaba. All right, this is an energy field that, if you can learn to spin it the right way, holds the key to demanifestation, to teleportation, and to control over matter, being able to control the matter of our bodies. So the first step is becoming aware of what chakra centers are involved in this and beginning to activate them. You can't activate overnight or you blow your body up, because the body has to grow into the ability to process higher frequency. Sometimes people do this like spontaneous combustion thing, and scientists go, wow, how did that happen? Sometimes it happens because too much energy came in from their own unified field, from their own auric field. And sometimes there are glitches in this, and when that happens, it speeds up the molecules so fast that they either explode or implode. I'm not sure which it does, but it does one or the other. It breaks the pattern apart. When that happens, it fragments your crystal body, completely fragments it into little pieces, back into like D1 and D2 pieces. So activations do take time.
They become ashes. They become ashes when they combustion.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book with the pictures.
Right.
And you see the ashes like when you burn something. And
Right. And what's happened underneath those ashes used to be a form that had a crystal body in it. The ashes still have a crystal body, but it's broken up in all sorts of little pieces, as if you took a crystal glass and shattered it on the floor.
That's right.
They have to start the process of evolution all over again, putting those chelons back together to get to the point where they originally were. So it's better to build chelons than to break them down. So anyway, when we're doing activations, what we're going to learn to do first is to bring this, and this chakra online with the rest of them that are functioning right now in our body systems. All right, we're going to do that by, all right, first of all, I want to get into this a little bit. The 13th chakra is a chakra that exists at the center of the earth. It's one of the earth's chakras too, not just ours. It is a chakra that unites our crystal body with the crystal body of the planet. And it's where we draw energy from the planet. So we are a living part of the planet, which a lot of people don't realize. They walk around on the earth and they think it's just a thing to walk around on. They don't realize their body is a part of the earth body. And, we're all connected to it. So we connect through the 13th chakra. Did you want to ask a question?
Some information that was given to me by the Pleiadians is that the higher chakras are shared chakras.
Yeah.
And we operate on the higher planes in community with other beings through those chakras.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to keep it simple for tonight, though, and keep on basically what we can do with ours, and later we'll get, in other classes or other times, we'll go into, you could write a book on each chakra, explaining what it does, what it's connected to, what its function is, how to use it in the best ways. So, there's a lot of information that goes with them. But the higher chakras above them do connect you to the expanded field of the universe and also to the expanded field of your own family tree of consciousness. You become plural after a certain point, where you're not just an individual self, you're a self composed of many. Just like if you look at yourself now, and you think of yourself as a child, all those little childhood memories. Now, they don't seem to be a separate, different you, right? They were just you at a different stage, right? As we evolve and as we start to activate the higher chakras, we start to understand that the other identities in our family tree of consciousness are kind of like us at different stages, and they're all us. And you start to refer to yourself as a we, because you know you are. We are all plural. We think we're separate and individual, and that's one of the learning experiences we have within this dimension right now. But we're actually part of a larger consciousness that knows itself as self. And it's not something that controls us, it's something that is us at a higher level of evolution. Just like we are a higher level of evolution for that child that we were once. So that gets into the plural concept where it connects you to more than just, yourself. But I just want to get us familiar with how the chakras run, where they are. So if you say, gee, I want to activate my 10th chakra, where's that? It's right up here. It's about 6 inches above the head. It's above the crown chakra, directly above it. And it's right around in there. It's a little higher, a little lower on some people. The 11th chakra is about 18 inches above the head. So when we're visualizing this stuff, it helps to know, because if you don't have your higher sensory perception, on yet, you have to visualize it. You have to imagine it there. Okay, where would that be? It'd be right about here. The 14th one is you could picture it about 3.5 feet above the head. And then the 15th one, you could picture it going right through the earth and way out into outer space on the other side of the planet. So you're going through the earth. That is an important connection, because it's actually a line of energy that runs all the way down through. Connection to the cosmos, but also to the earth core. All right. In the meditation that I would like to teach, there's a couple other energy centers. These are not chakras. These are kind of like, if you look at them with higher sensory perception, they look like little balls of energy or little stars of energy. What they are, they function as a database. They hold certain key frequencies of your soul and your oversoul. And within them you will find the story of what your existence is about, your personal existence, why you were created, what you came here to do this time. We all have a purpose, which a lot of people don't realize. We really did come for a purpose. We're part of a bigger purpose that our soul family or our family of consciousness is involved in. So when you start to get into these other energy centers, you'll start to be able to find that part of yourself. And the Guardians call it the inner sanctum. And I like that, because I've used this as a sanctuary after they taught me how to find this part of my energy system. All right. The first level that I would like to deal with is called this is hard to pronounce, Bremen. They call it the Bremen, but there's no E between the M and the N. All right, it's Brehmn. That's their word. All right. This connects to the soul, the core of what's called your oversoul. Okay, you have your identity here, which is your incarnated identity. Then you have your soul, which is in the D4, 5, and 6 frequency bands. Then you have your oversoul, which is in the D7, 8, 9 frequency bands. All right, that is the center that you came out of. You emerged out of the oversoul. Even the higher parts of your identity will have to come back through the oversoul to go back out of the time matrix or out of dimensionalized reality. All right, so this one connects to the oversoul. There's another one down here that's a little bit above the navel. It's just a little bit above it. And if you look at them, and if you could see with higher sensory perception, they would look like little starbursts, just little stars that were in the middle of your energy field, way deep inside of your body. This one is called it sounds like on. It's A-U-A-N, but it's pronounced like you would say on, O-N, that kind of sound. All right. This connects to the geomantic entity. Okay, the geomantic entity is a level of your identity that exists beyond the dimensionalized system. It's the collective gestalt identity that you were before you fragmented yourself into individuation and became individual beings running around in a dimensionalized system. You could consider it the whole self. Some people consider it the God self, people who prefer spiritual terms. We call it the geomantic entity because it is composed of many, many interwoven geometrical particle strands and Keelan codes. So it's geometrical. And it's a level of consciousness that can't even be translated in human form, but parts of it can be. So this connects you right to the entity. That holds the whole primary purpose, not only for your life, but for all of the lives within your family tree of consciousness. And you can get a lot of information about, what is my life about, what do I do next from this place. Okay, there's one more center, and this one has been used in, I believe, Chinese and Japanese martial art type things. It's, they call it the Turban, but I believe it was called the Tantin in martial arts, or some people call it the Hara. It's a ball of energy that's connected to the earth directly, and it usually looks gold when it's dormant, like it is in most of us. But if you want to bring energy and energize your whole system, your whole body system, your particle grid, your crystal body, by bringing energy from the earth core, which has a lot more energy than we do as individuals, you can activate this. You can concentrate, focus your energy on it, and use visualizations to literally bring energy up from the 13th chakra, straight up this middle line, and into that until it becomes a big red glowing ball. This is what the martial arts masters, who can do things like, like crack bricks and, piles of bricks in half and all this, it's their center of balance. It's all of our center of balance. But it's by using that power and building it and bringing the earth power current up that they're able to do some of the feats that they can do. And the old masters, I don't know if there's anyone around who can do it these days, but some of them used to be able to appear and disappear, or replicate themselves, where people would see 4 of them if they wanted, and the enemy wouldn't know which one was the real one to fight. They could do amazing things by activating that energy center. So basically, if you're going to learn anything about the chakras, I would think that these were the most important. The Brahman, between the 4th and 5th chakras, the An, right above the belly button, and the Turban, right below. Now, these create, there's an energy, a little tiny line of energy that looks like a laser beam, that runs from the 14th chakra all the way down through the other chakras, through the crown, all the way down through the Brahman, through the An, through the Turban, all the way down through the earth, and through out into the galaxy, through the 15th dimension, and back up into the 4th. Okay? They call that the Tower. It doesn't really matter what you call it, just know you have a line of energy that runs there. Sometimes this line gets broken within our bodies. It's like a laser light. And, if you put something in its way, if there's a frequency coming in its way, it can push it out of shape, or it can, cut it off. If we begin to be aware that we have this line of energy running through our bodies, we need to learn to check it, to learn to use visualization to say, okay, I'm going to check this line. What is it doing? Your inner self, or the part of you that understands how visualization works, will help you to see it. It will start to develop your higher sensory perception enough where you can start to see the condition of your line. If that line is broken, you will have energy blockage in the area of the break. You will also have energy leakage, which can build up in other parts of the body and the organs, and it can create physical disease, and as well as other problems. So one very therapeutic thing for all of us to do is become aware of that main triatal line running down through, and aware to check. Just lay down at night when before you go to sleep. Say, where's this line? And start trying to find it. And eventually you will find it. If you use visualization, okay, I know it's there. Eventually you'll feel it. And once you start to feel it, that you're really on. There's a feel to this too, not just a visual, but a feel. You'll be able to then use the visual translation to see where the breaks are in the line. What they are is they're breaks in the particle grid pattern. You can use visualization to fix that line of energy. And what you're doing is using 4th dimensional sound to correct the pattern and realign it. That's one of the most important things you can do when you first start working with the crystal body and the energy, is making sure, because it grounds your energies into the earth, and it also aligns you with the higher dimensional aspects of your own identity. So it's one of the basic things that that the guardians have stressed that was most important. Now, I'm going to get into one more quick picture here. Just pardon the artwork here. I did this in about 10 minutes. I was putting this whole thing together so I'd have something to use tonight because I didn't have the Mylars yet for the overhead projector. So once they're in the book, they'll be much neater, I promise. This?
They're pretty nice the way they are.
I'm a perfectionist. Okay. This wild-looking thing. If you had your higher sensory perception turned on all the way up to the 15th dimension,
We could understand that.
this is what we look like. Okay? Now, most systems that teach you about the auric field and all of that will take you up to about, let's see, D1, 2, 3. They take you up to the 7th level. They'll show you the 7th level of the aura. They usually don't show you what's beyond that. Not a lot of people know what's beyond that, but some people do. The guardians do. Okay. We'll start with this. We have the physical body here. Right outside of the physical body, and you can learn to see this part, is something called the etheric body. And it kind of goes with the physical body. It's actually your particle body. It's actually where you're attached to your double, where your energy fields are attached. Okay? Right outside of that, right about, it's a little bit different for everybody, it's right about here, and it's literally out in the atmosphere around you, is a bubble of energy that's not quite as defined, as it doesn't follow you quite as closely, it's a little looser. That's called the emotional body, and a lot of people know this part already. Okay. Now, the emotional body corresponds with the second dimension, and that means the second chakra also corresponds with the second dimension. Okay. So this level of your aura is your D2 frequencies, your D2 particle grid. Now, the next level up here is your mental body particle grid. And if you see it with higher sensory perception, it looks kind of gold. And it doesn't just hang out around you. Every one of these fields is around you. It permeates you too. It goes through every part of you. It saturates it. So it's like a level of saturation upon level of saturation, not just an onion skin that you're peeling. Okay, it's running right through you. So you have your D3 mental body, which gives you your mental focus here, your conscious awakeness here. And it corresponds with the third chakra, the solar plexus chakra. Okay. Now if you notice these red bands I have here, these are within the etheric field and within the particle grids. There's actually a reversal of the spin of the particles between these dimensions here, between 3 and 4. It creates a separation or polarization within the energy fields that you have to pick up a certain speed within your mental body grid before you can move through that and bring your astral body grid in, where you start to learn astral projection and all this kind of stuff. Usually it starts to happen because your soul inspires it. And you don't say, I'm going to learn to astral project. Some people do. But usually it starts to happen to you before you understand what is happening to you. All right, the next level up, after you go through that little level of polarization, let's call it, or reversal of spin of the particles, you have your D4, and it goes with the 4th dimension. Some people call it the astral body, and they call the 4th dimension the astral plane. That's also a matter plane. It has matter to it, just like this, but it's a thinner level of matter. Up here is D5, and it creates the 5th level of the auric field, which is called by some the etheric template. I like that term. That's a term that Barbara Brennan uses. When I'm speaking with the Guardian Alliance, they tend to use terms that are, for one, hard to pronounce, and for two, we've never heard of it all before. You know, they have their own language, and instead of using some of their terms for these levels, I'm just going to stick with Barbara Brennan's interpretation because it's a lot easier. All right, so we have the etheric template. She calls it that because this level of the auric field, the 5th level, actually sets the pattern that the etheric body will hold, which sets the pattern for our double and for our physical body. Okay, so if we want to change structures in our physical body to a large degree, we have to access the 5th dimensional level of our particle grids.
Excuse me one moment. When you say change structures, What do you mean by structures?
Grow limbs, like Ruben was saying. If you were able...
Diseased organs?
Yes. Yes,
Really?
you can create healings. There are techniques that they have taught me for personal healings, where if once you can learn to move your consciousness out of your body and into higher states, there are experiences you can go through in those higher states that will directly affect the condition of your physical body. I've had my back fixed that way a couple times because my back likes to go out on me. And when it's corrected from that level, from the fifth dimensional level, the fix holds a lot better. It lasts longer than if I try to do it from just like a D3 level of perception.
Do you do it or do they do it?
Sometimes they do it and they're teaching me how to do it.
Mhm.
So I guess they're getting sick of putting me back together. Because they've done that a couple of
Then you
times.
could teach us how to do it.
Yeah. I could, share, at some point I will share with you some of the things they've taught me. Okay. Now, okay, out here is the sixth level of the auric field. That's, in Barbara Brennan's terms, is called the celestial body. Okay? We basically just refer to that as the third level of the soul body. We consider D4 the first level of the soul body, D5 the second level and the center of the soul body, and D6 the third level of the soul body. So there's three-dimensional frequency bands that compose your soul identity. Okay? And they're directly attached energetically to you. And it's a process of bringing them in to the body more to become conscious of it. All right. Now up here, there's D7. Barbara Brennan calls that the catheric template. We call it the first level of our monadic identity. Okay. A monad is basically the primary three tones that we were created from before we broke down into a double and ourselves, a part of come being and a part of K being. The monadic identity, which is composed of D7, D8 at the center, which corresponds with the galactic core literally out there in the universe someplace, and D9. They are our monad, and we call it the Pura. That's what the Guardians use. Other people have called it the monad, and they said that either term is fine. So D7 is the last level where you experience form, all right, like matter form at all. You don't have a physical body in D7. You have kind of like a pre-matter, semi-solid type body. In the soul body, you do have a matter body. It's not as dense as this one, but it is still a body. So once you hit D7, after you evolve past D7, you just don't have form anymore, your consciousness. All right, but these levels of our identity exist right around us at all times, and we can evolve into bringing them into the body. You can have a D7 or a D8 awareness in a body, but the whole codes for D8 won't be activated because if they were to blow you out of form manifestation. All right, so one of our primary objectives in learning to evolve, consciously evolve, and to evolve our DNA and to evolve our spirit is to learn to activate these three frequencies of D7, 8, and 9 within the body, because that brings in the higher dimensional aspects, and it also allows more rapid acceleration of the double and you merging with each other. Okay. Now out here in the auric field we have dimensions 10, 11, and 12. These correspond with dimensions 10, 11, and 12. They are the 10th, 11th, and 12th level of our identity and our auric field. And the Guardians call these the Dolar levels. They call it's the avatar level of awareness, and they call it the Dolar. That's their word. Dolar or Dolus, either one. So we have 1, 2, and 3 levels of our Dolar identity. Then these bands out here, which are way out in the universe. This is where we're connected to the universe, and we're connected to the dimensionalized system, the 13th, 14th, and 15th dimensions. But and all of our fields are constantly overlapping, like, our fields are running through each other right now as we sit here. Well, this part of our fields runs through the universe. It's part of the unified field. Okay? They consider this level of our identity the Rishi identity. And it's interesting, I know that word is used in some type of Eastern philosophies, I think,
where I remember something like, somebody wrote a book, The Return of the Rishi, and I haven't read it, but I was like, ooh, there's that word. So the Rishi is something that's known as a master, or something like
It
that.
means seer.
Is that what it means? It's a level of consciousness, a level of our identity that exists completely beyond form manifestation at all, of any of the dimensions. It's the composite. When you evolve to become a full Rishi, if we were to see a Rishi, it would look like a sun. It would look like a ball of flaming light. That's what it would look like. That would be the form that you would have. And you're actually pure consciousness at that form. All right. Now, we're still connected to that level of our identity. When working with the Guardian Alliance, they go through things called initiations, consummations, and activations. An initiation is when, let's say, you're a D3 being, you start to pull in the frequencies and the Kelon codes of D4. That's an initiation. You're initiating the Kelon codes of D4, or this dimension, into the ones that you already have. A consummation would be when you pulled in all of the frequency bands, Kelon codes of D4. And an activation would be when they were taken from storage in your junk DNA and in your Kelon codes and plugged into your neurological structure, where it would start to manifest through the hologram of your life. The whole process of dimensional ascension is a process of initiation, consummation, and activation of higher and higher levels of Kelon codes. And it's a fascinating and very confusing process when you're doing it blind, which I did. When I started to do this with them, I had no idea. I didn't have this information then. But by going through these initiations and bringing more Kelons into my body, I was able to process some of this data. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't. Because the more Kelons you have in your Partikai grid, the more awareness you are able to filter through into the physical body. And the translation is an electrical process. So it's definitely well worth our while to learn about our energy systems and to learn what we can do to begin expanding. We're going to do the process whether we like it or not. It's called being human. It's called evolving. We can either participate and have more control over the process or let it happen to us. It's really our choice. Okay. This is the inner sanctum. It's a meditation. And it's kind of where I would like to leave off for this evening. It's going back to the primary centers on the Triatal line. And they just gave this one to me today. So I'm going to have to read it, but I will read it with you, and I know how to do it, but I haven't done it with them yet myself. If you would like to do it, I will walk you through a guided meditation on it. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm going to be making tapes of it eventually, on an audio tape or whatever, where you can plug it in and listen to it and then just do the guided meditation. What its purpose is to activate all of these fields and also teach you how to focus your awareness in the, however you pronounce that, Bremen, that's it. When you focus your awareness in the Bremen, there's a lot of things you can do. I've learned to astral project from there, which was kind of a neat little trick that I didn't know could happen. Whenever I feel exhausted or overwhelmed or frightened or any of those things, once you learn to center your consciousness in this little star of energy that you carry around inside of you, it's the greatest analogy I have to this is, remember the I Dream of Jeannie show? Mm-hmm. And she'd get bent and she just wanted away from everybody and she'd dive down into her little bottle and that was it. She had the long stem with the little bulb bottle on it, and she'd sit down there all comfortable in her little bulb of her little bottle and she was safe. You can do this once you learn to center in your inner sanctum. You can literally pour yourself down your crown chakra, end up in there, and it shifts your energy. You get this, you can learn to develop a focus in there where everything else is out here, and you get this quietness and this focus and this hyper cognition level can be found in there. It's a very, very special space to be in. And once you find that level of focus, you can take it many, many places. That's the best place to learn to communicate. If anyone is interested in trying to open up the lines of communication, either with guardians or with your own higher identity. Some people call that channeling your higher self. You might as well, it's yours anyway. I mean, it's not like you're letting something invade you. It's the higher self is you. The next level up is your soul level, your D4, 5, 6 self.
There's a lot of awareness there, just waiting for you to plug it in. Yeah, smiling it in that direction. When you go into the inner sanctum, you will find a place to start, a place to focus. It's your connection to the universe space. It's also a lot more than that. But that's all we really need to know for tonight. So, are you interested in doing it tonight?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, absolutely,
you want to do it
sure.
tonight? Okay.
Mhm.
Could do it at the plate though. Makes it a little.
You need to be sitting down or spine straight and all that.
Whatever's most comfortable for you. A lot of them, especially when I'm learning new ones, I tend to lay down. It's just too much energy to keep my body up and focus too, so I tend to not keep my body up. Whatever's most comfortable for you. Okay. And I will do my best to walk us through this nicely. Once I get more familiar with it, I'll be able to do it off the top of my head and probably go with you.
We don't need that one. Just turn it off.
Did you see?
Can you see?
Yeah. Okay.